That looks like it could be a problem.
What was a problem? Oh. Wow. Hello and welcome to the pubcast. Steve is messing with the video and saved the beer, man. The mic is toast, but we saved the beer.
Let's see. Are we good? Oh my God. Well,
hey, man. This is the longest intro ever.
This is how it actually happened.
Yeah.
This was not at all planned.
Yeah,
catastrophic.
Actually, we hired stunt doubles to
That's why
handle all that stuff. And
Yeah.
Forgot which way to turn down the volume as well.
This is our first podcast ever.
This is.
It might be.
Hey, and welcome to the pubcast.
Yeah.
The Moon Underwater. I'm Kelly Daniels.
And I'm Steve Jones.
And we are, what's going on with your mic stand?
I don't know.
You just need a screwdriver to tighten that thing, which you don't have now, so just
I don't. Live with it falling in my lap for the next hour and 20
So those
minutes.
who are watching on video have seen that the beer almost fell over.
The beer very nearly went.
Those who are listening to the podcast, go check out the YouTube page for that exciting sequence. A pratfall, spilling beer, and that leads perfectly into our lovely subject today, and that is Richard Linklater's underappreciated.
Wait, is it even appreciated?
Yeah,
by us, maybe.
I appreciate. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but I think it's a wonderful film called "Everybody Wants Some," named after the great Van Halen song.
Do you know?
Go ahead.
Okay, when did this come out? It came out in 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot going on in 2016.
Yeah, maybe it just got. Are you wondering why it just got buried?
There's two things I'm thinking of. Immediately that comes to mind is we had the election in 2016.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to talk about that. And also, the most important thing to happen probably in the 21st century, the Cubs won the World Series.
Right.
So I could see it getting lost with that. It came out that week in November.
It's a baseball movie, though. Okay.
So it's a summer flick. All right. We got to back up.
So, those of you who don't know Richard Linklater, he's kind of my favorite. I've got a big fanboy crush on Richard Linklater. He is the original Gen Xer in a lot of ways. In that, I think he's older than that. But he did his first experimental film is called Slacker. You ever hear that?
I haven't.
Okay, I saw it in the movie theater.
Of course you did. I love that.
That was right when I was starting to become an artsy, insufferable little punk ass.
Did you ask everybody if they'd heard of it before you went to see it?
No.
Then you weren't that you weren't that insufferable.
It was really new, but I was just starting to get hip to counterculture, artsy stuff.
Nice.
Anyway, it's worth seeing. It seems like a student film, and it may have been his master's thesis.
Wow.
And it's funky, and it's got no plot. It's just one person walking along through Austin, like a young person, running into somebody they know, and then they have some exchange. And then it follows the other person on that exchange, and then they meet somebody else up. And they're just having these little, philosophical discussions or kind of like coffee house hipster talk or just like undergrad. Anyway,
that's 90s coffee house hipsters that they were heavy duty hipsters.
Right. But anyway, this.
What else did he do? Because we haven't.
Well, Dazed and Confused
the one everybody knows, right?
Is his great cult film.
Yep.
I didn't look at his filmography before coming here, but he's done some main School of Rock.
Yeah.
That was Richard Linklater. Yeah. So he's made some money too.
Yeah.
Among all these underappreciated pieces. But I'm imagining that a lot of people that would be interested in listening to our podcast would have seen Dazed and Confused and would like it. Everybody Wants Some is the sort of, not exactly a sequel, but the kind of spiritual sibling of it or something.
It is.
It's different characters, but it's in the 80s. It's 1980 rather than 1976.
I thought it was 82.
I could have sworn it said 1980
Okay.
on the right when he pulls up. I have a feeling you're going to want to talk about the cars. I didn't even notice the cars in the movie until you pointed them out.
Oh, they're so cool.
Dazed and Confused takes place over one day, last day of school, 1976.
Yep.
And has a whole big cast of high school characters who are all partying, smoking pot, cruising around, and started the career of Matthew McConaughey.
Who was great.
Mia Djokovic. What's her name?
Sure.
It's called, and Parker Posey. Anyway, that was a great one, and it wasn't a huge hit immediately, but it became a cult classic. Everybody Wants Some takes place the first move-in weekend of college, and it follows a first-year student, a freshman, on the baseball team, and he's going to live in one of the baseball houses.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of, it's what they love about it right off the bat, kind of glancing back at Animal House and our talk about student res, is there's no den mothers.
Yeah.
They basically are trusted, and it turns out their baseball team is the best team in the university. So everybody, they get everything free beer.
Yeah.
18 is the drinking age at that time.
It's Texas somewhere. Yeah.
And it just takes place over 3 days before the first day of school. And
So they open with, the kid pulling up at an Olds 442, which is just really, it's a really cool old Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
And
it's a sweet looking car, and it's almost like who bought this kid this car, you know?
Yeah. And then there was like, they're kind of cruising around after they meet up with their fellow teammates that are going to be living together. The freshmen are living in the baseball house, and they go out to go meet some girls, and they have what looks like a brand new AMC Gremlin.
Yeah.
However they got that is so cool.
There's got to be some gremlins around.
Yeah.
I told you about good old Sam, right? Let's see if I could turn this up again. And
let's see.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
I didn't hear it. I have a...
Well, we should do it again.
I'm sort of deaf. Wait.
Yeah. It was there.
I want to make sure. Okay. Good old Sam had wrote on the board during a ninth grade English grammar lesson. He was supposed to write a sentence with some certain elements, and he wrote, "My green gremlin has lots of torque." And he was this guy, had a really big nose and glasses, so he looked like Groucho Marx in middle school version. And pretty much. Nice. And we all just laughed at him, which brings up one of the topics of this movie and Dazed and Confused that I think I found really interesting on this watch. Both these movies are pretty either neutral or pro-bullying, I would have to say. Bullying is a huge part of this movie.
The 80s was pro-bullying.
It was, and so was the 70s.
I wasn't alive
I think
then.
in Dazed and Confused, the bullying kind of was looked at with... It has its place, but there are people who abuse it.
Yeah.
And there's
like the sadists, right?
Yeah, and then interestingly, Ben Affleck's character, O'Banion, is the one guy that loves doing it. He loves paddling these kids. So what happens, in case you haven't seen it, is on the last day of school, all the incoming freshmen graduating from 8th grade, little kids, about to start high school after summer, they get paddled by the outgoing seniors, like on the football team with those big, "Thank you, sir, may I have another paddle?"
like a pledge paddle
and
if
it's
you're in a fraternity.
Really terrifying for these kids, and some of them are kind of cool about it, and most of them pull their punches, the older guys. And even after one of the kids gets paddled, the guy that is involved in it goes, "Hey, man, why don't you can cruise around with us now.
Now you're cool.
You're cool now." But there's one guy, O'Banion, played by Ben Affleck. He is flunked out 2 or 3 times, so he's older, and he does it with this total sadistic relish, and he eventually gets his comeuppance big time, and none of his crew will come to his rescue because they all recognized that you were overdoing it, dude.
Right.
And in Dazed and Confused, the women had their own bullying, which I think we could just talk about bullying and how men bully physically, but women will like do it through humiliation, but also, we will ruin your life.
Yeah.
Parker Posey says drunk at the end because this freshman girl defies her in this way. She's trying to humiliate her in front of her new boyfriend.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm going to make your life hell. And she's wasted. And then she like flips her off and walks off.
Nice.
You realize, she's going to like, you could just imagine what she's going to do, but it's all reputation stuff. And
right.
Anyway, that was a little bit of a detour into that movie, but
you kind of need it for this. Yeah.
The bullying in this movie, okay, one of the differences with, I'm talking too much, sorry, man.
Yeah.
Your first question was why, when it came out, and why it didn't. Here's one of the reasons I think it didn't hit bigger than it might have. It's a full-on dude movie.
I was thinking that.
The women, so Dazed and Confused had pretty much the same amount of airtime for these women characters. They had their own stories, their own goals.
Yeah.
The only women in this one are cuties to be looked at.
Yeah.
It's full-on point of view movie from a baseball player, a jock, and all his buddies, and they're all looking for girls. And I think it's a really sweet movie, but I do think that in this day and age, even, back when it was released, that was just kind of enough for the general public to tune out when it turns out that there just aren't real women's stories in it.
That was 8 years ago. Wow.
Time flies, man.
It does. In my head, I had a comparison to a movie from, let's say, the late 90s that seemed really guy-focused, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
American Pie.
Yeah.
And that it's like a buddy flick, but then there's also the parts where you have like the female storyline and and then I don't know, they made 50 sequels and I didn't see any of them because I figured they were all going to suck.
I think Linklater is I think he cares about technique and form, and he decided to make this a point of view story because the point of view, the camera never leaves the main character.
So I wanted to talk about that.
Okay, yeah. What the heck is his name again? I don't know why I forgot it.
Main character's Jake.
Jake.
And we never find out the last names.
That's okay.
I love that.
Names. Yeah.
No, but that was part of the whole thing is you're sort of one of them, right? It's not like a mockumentary style shoot, but there's several things that happen along the way where you think, okay, we're going with them. Like we're going to so Jake is introduced early to his roommate who is the very redneck. They call him
Bueller.
Bueter.
Bueter. Yeah.
Bueter. It's a made up name. They call him Bueter Perkins because it was the most redneck name.
And he doesn't like it.
He doesn't like it.
And they are bullying him. Like
they are.
They don't bully equally.
No.
They pick out the one who is not going with the flow.
Right.
And then the bullying is very clearly this kind of social conformity. You need to be on the baseball team, man. You got to act a certain way.
Yeah.
You got to do certain things. And there was a few characters that were not conforming correctly. And I know...
And they were getting tested, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And our main character, Jake, he's a freshman, but he immediately shows himself to be a sort of, we can use the alpha dog kind of, he shows himself to be competent and not afraid of them. And they almost immediately start respecting him, and the other freshmen start deferring to him pretty quickly.
Yes.
But he also has to take but they don't give in immediately, the older guys.
Like, what about McReynolds? He's the one that he meets and says, I hate pitchers, and of course Jake is a pitcher.
Jake's a pitcher.
And
it's a great baseball movie in that pitchers are just weirdos.
Really?
I mean, I didn't play it deeply enough to understand that, but it's lonely on the bump. Willoughby says.
Willoughby's great.
Everything about the game, the most important thing about it, none of the position players even can understand what is going through a pitcher's
pitcher's
mind.
head. Okay.
And pitchers are weird, and Willoughby goes, you have to you can't resist your weirdness. You have to kind of embrace it. You can't go out there and be...
He was plenty weird. Well, I want to get to him.
And be what... You can't go out there... You have to... When it gets fun, he goes, it starts getting fun when you go out there and you be yourself, not what they want you to be, or not what they want.
Yeah. He was very wise.
He was wise and also... Yeah.
But let's talk about McReynolds, because the introduction's first 5 minutes.
Okay,
McReynolds shakes his hand. He's like, "What position do you play?" And Jake goes, "I'm a pitcher." And he immediately wipes his hand off.
Yeah.
I fucking hate pitchers.
Yeah.
And he's like, Jake's reaction was like, "Oh, okay." So we go upstairs to Buter, who he gets the introduction. He's got the chew going. He's
the cowboy.
He's definitely the cowboy.
It's 1980 or 82, I guess
somewhere in there.
And he wears a cowboy hat, wears boots. He's rural. None of the other guys are like that.
And he leaves, right?
Yeah.
So he leaves to go back home because...
He has a girlfriend.
And the girlfriend?
He says she's pregnant. She says she's pregnant.
She's a day late.
Yeah.
And so they I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go with Buter now. We're going to see his story, because it's kind of at that point in the movie, right? And that's it. We don't see him. And as he's leaving, the guys are betting, I'll bet you we never see him again.
Yeah. Well, because they bully him really hard.
They do.
And the whole purpose is you're either going to leave and we're not going to have to deal with you.
Or you're going to be like us.
Or you're going to come back and suck it up and start acting the way you're supposed to act.
Right.
Because he wasn't, and he really he's like, if there's anything of a plot in this, it is a bunch of guys wanting to meet girls, wanting to get laid. And what is standing in their way? Well, Buter.
Yeah.
Jake is bringing a girl.
They can't take him anywhere.
Jake brings a girl to his room, but Buter won't leave the room.
He won't leave the room.
And it's just like I think any guy watching that is like, oh, man.
Those roommates.
And
especially one that you just got placed with. Like, I never lived in the dorms.
Yeah.
But, if it's basically like living in a dorm with, your teammates. Yeah. So that was the first clue, though, that we're never going to see what happened with Buter. He does come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we don't know
He
that.
comes back, and he actually has a storyline where he does get in line by the end.
He does.
Because they keep messing with him, and he goes, "Come on, guys," and he's asking them not to, and they won't let up.
Right.
And he kind of confesses that he thinks his girlfriend's pregnant, and then they start calling him Papa instead of in typical guy fashion.
It's pretty great.
And their bullying is relentless and constant until you accept your position in the pack. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. But then at the end, he gets this. He just kind of confesses, "Hey, man, it's weird. It's weird out here, people." And he's like, "Yeah, somebody was telling me that one of those professors is saying that there's no evidence that Jesus Christ ever lived." And one of the freshmen's like, "Oh, that's just some jackass professor." And then I think Finn or one of those guys said, "Are you going to fold like a lawn chair?" And he kept asking him that. "Are you going to fold like a lawn chair?" Because, and the whole point of the movie, or at least one of the points, is, there's a lot of weird stuff out there. There's a lot of different kind of people out there. And are you going to run away from them? Are you going to run back to your farm and hide from the world? Or are you going to be like Finn, who he is the platonic ideal of this? He embraces every new experience, every new character. So he wants to experience it.
To put a face to Finn, he was Rooster in the Top Gun sequel. And he was great.
Didn't know that.
He was great in that movie, too. Yeah.
I thought he kind of stole the show on this one.
He did. Yeah.
He was the guy I liked the most, and
he was he was really good.
Yeah. We can talk about each of the characters, but there's a bunch of different ways we could go about this.
So I want to the big one that I want to mention for somebody that kind of disappears, and we don't see, right? Like we're not privy to being outside of the group, is Willoughby. So
Yeah.
Willoughby's kind of brought in as
Okay.
like the resident hippie,
Yeah.
right?
He's
Like,
from California.
He's from California.
He's the only guy from California.
Smokes a lot of dope.
He smokes pot, and he has blonde, longish hair for a baseball player and a beard.
A
He's the
beard
only
that
guy
looks like
with
he's like 50.
It's
like
he has a
to hear
baby
if-
face, but he has a real beard.
He does.
And he reminds me so much of a friend of mine named Reagan. And good old Reagan. I can't remember his last name right now. It's been so many years, but he looked like him, acted like him.
Yeah.
And anyway, I could
Okay.
tell stories about Reagan. But Willoughby is a transfer student.
Yes.
He's coming in to help them out as a pitcher. And he doesn't really party with the guys all the time.
Nope.
He's not away from them, but he also is sort of separate. And he's a total stoner. And he has all this like stoner philosophy. And there's this whole scene where he's like doing this giant bong rip.
Yeah.
And he's turning them all in on pot smoking, and playing Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
And then just talking about the music and
It's great.
kind of putting down Van Halen in favor of Pink Floyd. Like,
Do you know that I totally felt that because I am not at all a Van Halen fan.
oh no, what are you
Yep.
doing watching this movie, man? Because you're learning how to love Van Halen.
Not really. I just
Everybody
can't.
wants
I just
some.
never.
Ow! How about you?
You're singing again. All right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'll do
I'm gonna mark these.
David Lee Roth anytime, man. No Sammy Hagar from me. We can,
Yeah. Van
I don't-
Halen, not Van Hagar, to quote Joe Dirt.
yeah, that's right. It's that could be an episode on
Oh,
ourselves,
God,
but it would be
God.
one where your eyes glaze over and I talk. But anyway,
Okay, well, so
Willoughby.
on Willoughby, okay. So our introduction to Willoughby is that Jake is sitting with him. I think he had a VW bus, and he's rolling a joint, and he's like, "So Jake, I'm gonna go smoke this later. Do you want to come with me?" And Jake is like, "Yeah, maybe, maybe."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, have you smoked pot before?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah." And you
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
feeling, no, he hasn't.
Or not much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a revealing moment for Jake. It's one of those I don't know. It felt like it had happened to somebody. Like
What do you mean?
Like Richard Linklater.
Oh, yeah.
Like that it happened. Something similar had happened to them.
Well, you remember Dazed and Confused when the kid,
Yeah.
like the young guy the young lead character, I forget his
yeah.
name right now.
The long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he gets taken out by the older kids, and he hops into the back of the car that Matthew McConaughey's driving, and he's introduced to Matthew McConaughey's character, and Matthew McConaughey's like, "Hey, man, you got a joint?" And he goes, "No, man, not on me." He's
Be
like,
a lot cooler if you did.
"Be a lot cooler if you did." And then
That line.
it was like that. It was like he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes on. There's another part of Willoughby when the big fight breaks out.
Ooh.
So there's this other character who is a problem. There's these two characters that aren't quite fitting in.
And that's like
There's
very
Buter.
cued in by the
There's Buter, and then this guy from Detroit who's like a top baseball prospect, and he's just super angry, aggressive, and like kind of on the spectrum-y. And
he's the only guy we know the last name.
yeah, that's
Jay
right.
Niles.
Jay Niles, and he's throws 94 miles an hour. He's a top prospect, and he's doesn't get along with anybody. Nobody likes him. But he gets in a fight, and they all have to defend him because they're on the same team, but they're pissed off at him. They're like,
Right.
"Man, you got us kicked out of this." But during the fight, Willoughby is like the perfect mellow Californian.
Just
He's sort of like
stoner.
keeping people away and then trying to make sure people don't get hurt.
Didn't notice.
And then at the very end, he's the last one to leave, and he's dancing, and he just kind of waves goodbye while he's dancing
yeah.
as he goes out of the bar.
remember that.
And that reminded me of my friend Reagan. That's exactly Reagan's vibe.
Well,
He wrote this song called Skating Down Thalia, which is a street in Laguna Beach. And he got it. It was a true story about him getting an actual speeding ticket by a cop on a skateboard.
No.
Because he went over like 20 miles an hour or something, and he wrote this song about it. Skating down Thalia, feeling free, loving everybody that I see. And he goes, and then the cop pulls him over, and he said, "Hey boy, you been smoking pot?" I said, "No, thank you, sir, but thanks a lot." Thought that he might be a pretty cool cop, and then he writes out him a ticket. Anyway, that's Reagan.
Oh, no.
Lot like Willoughby. Yeah.
Well, so the big reveal on Willoughby reminds me of.
By the way, we're going to do spoilers on this episode.
Speaking of which,
we are.
There's
no plot.
We're
really,
20 minutes in and we're spoiling all of it.
Are we really?
Kind of.
There's no plot.
Is it 20 minutes in?
There's no plot.
It is exact, like 20 something. Yeah, and we're ruining it.
26.
There's no plot. It's all right. It's still worth watching.
But also, I want people, if they want to watch it, watch it. It's on. I rented it on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And whatever.
Yeah.
Well worth it.
So Willoughby, the reveal is, he steps up and he starts, he's pitching for batting practice.
Well, it takes a long time in the movie. The movie's 3/4 of the way through,
it's gonna go
and then they finally have baseball practice.
Yeah.
So they haven't done any baseball. It's just partying and stuff. And then they have the practice, which I liked because all of those actors can throw and hit and catch a ball. They look like they're baseball players.
Yep.
And they're doing all this baseball practice stuff, and it's fun to watch. And Willoughby gets called away from the mound. And then, do you want to take over from here?
No, you go ahead.
He gets called away from the mound, and everybody else is like, "Whoa, what's up with that?" And they've really bonded by this time. Like, the movie has gone on for quite a while. And then he talks to the coach for a while.
Yeah.
And he puts his hand out, and the coach reluctantly shakes his hand. And then he walks away, and he walks to the dugout, and he goes, "Hey, sorry, boys. I'm here. I was here for a good time, but not a long time."
He said, "We're here for a good time, but not a long time."
We're here for a good time, not a long time.
Great
and then he
line.
leaves. Yeah.
Great line.
It is a great line.
And so he is found out as being a fraud of sorts.
He's 30 years old.
30 years old.
And he just keeps transferring without real credentials. Like, I don't know if he already graduated.
Fake transfer or something, but he sort of disappears. And again, we don't go away. We don't know. They just hear that
some other characters hear the story and they come in and they go, "Oh, did you hear about Willoughby?" Because he's 30. And then Finn says, he probably just really liked baseball.
Yeah.
Wasn't good enough to make the pros. So he just kept playing, and he figured out a way to do it. And,
It reminded me of, okay, so I'm going to go way back. Well, now it's way back. God, probably in 2012. There was Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, great movie.
It's really good. And one of the things that came from that movie that was sort of a new cinematic device and probably not new in storytelling was that you could have characters that were important to the plot actually die.
Yeah.
That's what they did to him here.
Yeah. Got rid of him even though he was a good character.
He was a good character, but he was like the wise old guy, the stoner with the Pink Floyd. And what did he leave them with?
Yeah, Pink Floyd album and a big fat joint.
Big fat joint, which the two of them that showed up, they're like, "We smoked the joint."
Yeah. That was great.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I don't know. I have different ways we can talk about the different places they go to, kind of follow the plot, or we could talk about characters, just kind of go from character to character. I don't know.
I got themes.
Themes?
I want to talk about.
All right.
Yeah.
Why don't you bring up a theme?
The number one that came to my mind is coming of age.
Yeah.
And it felt very relatable.
Yeah.
So, can you think of a time in your life, and you have a bunch because I've read what you've written, where it's like this week, this month, these 3 months changed everything, right?
Yeah.
This felt like that, and I connected on a level where, for me, it was the summer after I graduated from high school. I'd gone through kind of a bad breakup. I had made the decision the day before I graduated from high school that I wasn't going to follow my original plans and go to the college that I was going to go to. I was going to go to the University of Iowa, dropped everything, and then decided to like really live it up that summer. I had it super easy jobs. I made money. I hung out with my friends, met girls, and then...
And you were a different person at the end of it, you think?
Totally different person. Then I went to the University of Iowa, and I mentioned before I participated in Rush. That was the first week before school started. This felt like that. It was like you didn't have any responsibilities. Yeah. I had a little money in my pocket from the summer.
Yeah.
Like it was amazing.
Yeah.
And so this I really connected. Like I went, oh my God, this was, like the couple of days before things got real again, at the University of Iowa. And so I really enjoyed it. For that reason, it was just very relatable.
Yeah, I related to it, but I also just made me want to be young again. And it was a pretty uncomplicatedly happy portrayal of going to college.
It was.
There was a lot of, like I said, there was all this bullying, but there wasn't real malice behind it. And I guess the other thing that was sort of, you might say is negative, was how competitive these characters were when they lost. Like the one guy, was it McReynolds that lost in ping pong?
Yes.
And he just throws a fit, and it's so embarrassing to watch, and he broke the ping pong paddle just because he lost, and he lost to the freshman.
Yeah.
And there's so many of those characters
pitcher,
had
worse
that.
Yet.
Yeah. And all the characters that lost in all these like petty games, and then on the ball field they were like hyper competitive too. So total coming of age.
Yeah.
So if we can just jump all the way to the very end, this is the ultimate spoiler.
Let's do it.
It ends on the moment. I love how it ends because all this stuff has happened. The whole movie, 3 days worth of partying, all these things happen, and we're going to fill that in. But then finally, the main character, Jake, goes to class. He's got to go to class.
Yeah.
It's like an 8:30 a.m. class. He gets in there. He sees a buddy. He and the buddy are talking, and it's history class. And then the buddy's like, who's that fucker? And they look over, and some guy that actually looks kind of like me. He's bald with a gray goatee.
Yeah.
And he's dressed in like and Jake's like, oh, it must be the professor. And he's like, oh, okay. Which was so funny because up until that moment, it's like, this is a place for young people.
Yeah.
And they'd even forgotten that there are some old people here. And then the guy walks in and he writes something on the board. You remember what he wrote?
No.
He writes, "Frontiers are everywhere."
Oh.
And then it goes back to Jake, and Jake puts his head on the desk and falls asleep, and the credits roll. And today, a student was sleeping through one of my classes.
Did you think frontiers are everywhere?
Pretty much, but also think of frontiers are everywhere as just a little clue as to what it's about. It's frontiers are borders.
Yeah.
And it's about these kids crossing borders.
Yeah.
Borders from, kind of adolescence into adulthood,
Ooh,
but
we
also
should talk about the other borders they cross.
Yeah, like what?
So I think it's more than one night, right? Because
it's 3.
It's 3. And so what they're doing is, like, night 1, they go to one particular club, right? They go to Sound Machine, like on the first day.
They go to a couple per. Okay, let's talk about this now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I have it written down where they go.
Okay. But you have to pour your beer.
This is
That's
a
what
really good movie to talk about.
Oh, it's so
to drink
good.
beer. While talking about
the
bar is packed.
It is. It's kind of nice.
It is nice, but I worry that people are afraid of us because they're all packed.
They should come over this way.
Yeah, come on
over and hang out.
You're good.
Yeah, we're fine.
So the first place they go to is the Fox's Den.
Oh, the Fox's Den.
That's just the sports bar.
That's like it seems like sort of a towny sports bar.
Towny sports bar.
But you could drink when you're 18, so they
drink. Yeah. But they come in and you guys can come in.
You can come on over.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah. the Fox's Den, not much happens because it's just a sports bar, but they come on in and they and that's just a place to party. But then they go to the sound machine, which is a disco, and then they dance and they. It's full on disco. I'm pretty sure it's 1980 because disco would have still been, like the pointing their fingers up and all that. Yeah, that's right. Some of the patrons here are doing disco.
Disco demolition hadn't happened yet in Comiskey.
And
Chicago.
Then later they go back and they're not hitting it with the girls, and then they get in the fight. And then they go to a place called 100% Guaranteed Purity or something.
Okay. I don't remember the name.
It's the cowboy place.
Yeah.
With a mechanical bull.
Yeah.
It is what the heck?
You said you said before we started.
Guaranteed Wholesome.
Guaranteed Wholesome.
It's called Guaranteed Wholesome.
I love it.
And then Finn, and then they go to a punk club and see a punk band. Then they have their own party.
So they're kind of trying these different things out, like different scenes,
and
right?
then it ends, they go to the theater kids party, which is all like super elaborate. I mean, the coolest theater kid, like me with watching Slacker, I would have been at the theater party.
Yeah.
Like, I was like pretentious in that way. And this is where Finn, I think, really kind of owns the movie. And he's the one that always wants to go to these parties. And no matter what it is, all the other guys, especially the punk one, they're like, no, I don't want to. He's like, yeah, let's go.
He's like, no, come on. We absolutely should
And
go.
he goes home and he tears the sleeves off his shirt so he can look more like him. And then Jake goes, we've been going to all these places. I mean, yesterday we were here, we were there. He's like, all right, isn't it kind of phony? He's like, no, man, it's not phony.
No.
It's adaptive.
Yeah.
He goes, we're here doing the same thing that humans have all done.
And
we're
doing
all trying
what
to
all
get
the other college kids are doing.
Yeah.
All the other college guys.
Yeah.
Some of the college girls trying to get girls, I guess.
Yeah, and we're, you just fit in. You find out. You learn. He's always saying that. Like when they first meet these girls who were like obviously smart. He's like, did you notice she had a typewriter in the back? He's like, you need to rise up to their level if you're going to get anywhere with them. He pulls up and he starts talking, and he's super good talker, and he has all these big words, and he's this rationalist kind of thinker that knows philosophy and stuff. And so that's kind of, and then they finally go to the theater party, and he immediately grabs this top hat off of a shelf and puts it on. And
so we don't stay with him when he's doing the whole thing, right? Because the team's there, because they all go, because there's no breakouts, right? It's the group. And he goes and gets dressed up, and they're doing like some sort of really good improv.
Yeah. It's the Bachelor #1, Bachelor #2 thing, but Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Okay, this is the part that felt a little forced, but you have to do something, right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay, here's the deal. Every party seemed pretty realistic.
I would agree.
But the theater party was a little over the top.
Exactly.
That place was too good to be true.
It was.
But it's fine.
But it's a movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you remember Finn's big pickup line?
Oh, I don't.
He starts telling women, we get it because he's talking to these two women, and the other older guys are telling Jake about what he's doing. He's telling them that he has an average sized dick.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, and they're like, why would he do that? He's like, just watch him.
All these other guys are talking about how big their dick is.
Yeah, and he's like, and now they're just like, they think it's kind of funny or they're relieved. And he's like, but what's really going on? And he's like, he's sitting there talking to two girls, and what's the subject? His dick.
Yeah, because he's trying to pick up two girls.
Yeah. And he's like, and they call him out at the end because he's like, I forget what he was saying. He was just overdoing the phoniness part. He was like, oh gosh, I don't remember. He was trying too hard, I guess.
That was great.
So yeah,
it was a good scene. It was a good way to end it. Yeah, when we get to our final thoughts on it, I've got some comparisons that I'll make, but for right now, I'm going to hold them back.
All right.
So that was my exploration of identity, right? Like going to the different clubs, trying on kind of the different scenes, seeing what they thought. Whether or not they were going to choose any one of them is a different story, right? I mean, they kind of define their own scene being on the baseball team.
Yeah. Hey, remember, was it Mick Reynolds? There was a couple guys that looked kind of the same. When he's like looking at his ass in the mirror and going, I got the best cheese on campus.
The best cheese.
And he's like shaking his own ass and then pulling his...
It was, I want to say it was Mick Reynolds.
And then he's like, yeah, they're talking about me on campus. Like, he's got the best cheese. He's like, I heard, somebody told me that. Like, I got the best cheese. It was such a great scene.
I was too young in 1980 at that point, several months old, that I don't remember the word cheese being...
No, I don't remember that either. So I would have been in middle school when this happened, and you probably were barely alive.
Barely an infant.
Yeah. But the music, did the music speak to you?
On my list.
Okay. I mean, I know you could just look at the music list on the credits, but I just wrote down the songs that I really recognized, and all of them I recognized, and all of them I liked.
Okay, so do you have any that in particular? So I've got my standout list.
Okay, it started off with My Sharona.
It did.
That was a huge hit when I was in 7th grade.
What a great song.
That's when I first went to like school dances.
7th grade dances.
My Sharona. And they didn't play any Devo, but
they talked about it.
When they talked about it, and also Jake's record collection, the album on the front was Are We Not Men, We Are Devo. That record was hugely important to me. And they played Cheap Trick, and then Rapper's Delight.
That scene, I'm going to get to that, but I want to talk about Cheap Trick first.
Okay.
All right. Cheap Trick Cheap Trick is a Chicago-ish band. Do you know
Rockford,
this?
baby.
Rockford. That's right. I'm gonna claim Chicago.
I know a bunch of guys from Rockford.
Nice.
And trust me, they will tell you about how Cheap Trick's from Rockford. If you go to Rockford, they'll go, "Oh yeah, they're own that house."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I happen to know.
Wait, I gotta do Skitch. Skitch is a drum tech for the Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick, and now he's just a professional drum and guitar tech. Tours around the world.
Okay.
And I think he started off with Cheap Trick.
Cheap Trick.
With Bunny Carlos' side band,
like the Big Bangs and
who
Cheap Trick when he was working with them.
I don't remember. I don't know the whole story of it, but
okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
go ahead.
So I have a Cheap Trick story, and I like Cheap Trick, junior high school, and my dad was a pilot, and flew to some crazy places when I got older, including Tokyo, out of Chicago. The nonstop flight. He hated it because it was
a long flight.
You're long flight, but you're all day when you're not tired and all night when you are, versus the other way going east where it's all night when you're not tired and all day when you are. So
No, I get it.
So he gets home and he throws me a guitar pick. He's like, "Hey, you ever heard of these guys?"
Holy
shit. And it was Cheap Trick.
Wow.
And I was like, "What? No, what? You got to be." He's like, I don't know. I guess I heard of them. I don't. And he was not at all impressed by celebrity or anything else.
Yeah.
It was like,
Did he meet them?
I was like, "Did you talk to him?" And he's like, "No, I got a fucking airplane to fly. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, sorry." Like,
how did he get the pick though?
It was the flight attendants had talked to him. Somebody knew who they were, and they handed him out.
Oh,
so yeah.
Were they on the plane?
They were on the plane. They were in first class to Tokyo.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
They were there, and I was like, "Well, who was which was it?" And he's like, I don't know and don't care.
Yeah.
Like, this is so not something I'm. Yeah. He's like, I played him some songs. He's like, "Yeah, I know that one." Like, "You don't care?" He goes, "It was work. I know I don't care."
Yeah.
Little peeking behind the curtain, I guess, for a
I
pilot.
love Cheap Trick. I
Me
really
too.
do.
Yeah.
I saw them play at Ragbri. Ragbri's a bicycle ride across Iowa, and
Are
they
you
had,
riding Ragbri this year? It was
No,
on
I'm
my list of
not.
questions.
No, because I'm riding from Albuquerque to back home,
Yeah.
and that's going to be my ride thing, and then I'm going to go to Italy for
Yeah.
pretty much the rest of the summer.
That sounds pretty good.
So yeah. Other songs.
Okay, other
but wait,
songs.
Rappers Delight.
Rappers
Did you-
Delight. That scene was
Yeah.
fantastic.
So I had it memorized.
Yeah.
And I was
Did-
going to
didn't we
rememorize. I was going. No, they didn't do it all. I was going to rememorize one of the.
I mean, didn't all of us
Oh,
at
didn't
one
we?
point?
Oh, yeah, we did.
I mean,
it was
come on.
so great.
Bunch of white kids in a car.
Yeah.
You know, and one black kid.
One black guy.
And singing Rapper's Delight, which
Yeah.
felt very much like, suburbia in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ZZ Top song, "Shake Your Groove" thing. That was the. That
Not
was
a big ZZ Top guy, but
No, me either.
All right.
It was fine. We got the funk.
oh
And
yeah.
then, what is the All Night Long song? It's not.
Ooh.
It's not that one. It's gosh darn it! I should have said who the band was. Anyway, Blondie.
Blondie, Heart of Glass is such a great song
Yeah.
for that time period, and that's what the song was. Clearly, if I'm mentioning it, I do love that one.
Urgent by Foreigner.
Foreigner.
And, Driving My Life Away by Eddie Rabbit, because that's when they were in the country music or the Guaranteed Wholesome.
Okay. Now, my question that I
And
have,
Cotton Eye Joe.
Cotton Eye Joe, which I guess I didn't realize that was an older.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had from the soundtrack, but I did not recall hearing it. Good Times Roll by the Cars.
Yeah.
Love
At
that
the very
song.
end.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then the
Rolling
Pink
the
Floyd,
credits,
of
yeah.
course, while they were
Yeah.
smoking pot.
Yeah.
And then Everybody Wants Some and Ain't Talking About Love, both Van Halen, two Van Halen songs
That
during
I
their
wish I
party.
could fast forward through.
That was their. What a.
I just don't like
yeah.
Van Halen.
That's your problem.
I
and
know.
We'll have
It
to work on
is.
it. And yeah, let the good times roll. And gosh, I think we hit all of my little
Okay.
bullet points.
I got a few more.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, let's talk a little bit about. We've talked about the explanation of identity. It's kind of nostalgic, right? Freedom and responsibility. So, I get the feeling you, growing up, at some point, got a lot more of that than I had.
Responsibility.
Yeah, freedom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like you were. It was like you hit a certain age, and it was like you could
Yeah.
go out and do. And now,
I was 17 when I moved out of my parents' house, so I was pretty young. I was still in high school.
what?
That was a bad idea for everybody involved, but yeah.
You turned out okay. Okay.
Yeah, I suppose.
So, yeah, I mean, I lived comfortably, very far west suburb. I was a guy that, I mean, my parents trusted me. I had no access to anything terrible anywhere close to me because we lived 8 miles from town.
Yeah.
We definitely had no freedom to like go out and ride a bike to go to get food anywhere.
The natives are restless.
They are.
little-
It's pretty funny though.
it is.
And so, and if you're only listening on Spotify,
Yeah.
you are missing the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I really think that that the freedom and responsibility going to college was a really big deal for me.
Oh, yeah.
And because I never lived like close enough to walk to anything. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I lived three
Let's
quarters
face
of a
it,
mile into my neighborhood.
You were Buter, man.
I was.
I mean,
I was.
kind of.
Like a Chicago suburb Buter.
Your dad was a pilot. That's sort of different, but...
No, it's not, because
Yeah.
they want to live as far away as humanly possible from anyone else. And so that's what we did. I lived 3/4 of a mile from my bus stop, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't come back to pick us up. So I would get a ride to the bus.
Yeah.
That was then, when I was in high school, it was a 30-minute drive just if I was driving. So I didn't have any of that. So going to college, that's something else I kind of connected with. You know, I didn't know what to expect. I thought I knew what I was getting myself into, and then we found ourselves with.
And some professor told you that there's no proof that Jesus Christ
really
existed. That must have rocked your world.
It did. Yeah.
It happens.
It was my first foray into this was I kind of mentioned Rush Week. We had a Rush group that we all lived in the same dorm. We went through together. As in the same recruitment group, but we were all going to go to different fraternities more than likely.
Yeah.
And it felt like this, right? Like where, we're having this awesome week. We're always going to be friends. And then, you make the decision. Everybody sort of splits. The camera turns off in this case. And then it's like, hey, whatever happened to Travis? Oh, Travis dropped out.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
That actually reminds me of a character I wanted to talk about, a minor character.
Okay.
The punk kid who was Jake's.
That kid was trouble.
So he was Jake's teammate in high school. They were on the baseball team together. And they're walking down, and now he lives in the punk rock club house.
He's got a poorly drawn Anarchy A on his jacket.
And then he was the one that brought them to the punk club, and then he went to their party. And they were playing kind of drunken baseball. And he could play baseball, too.
Yeah.
But he also had a little speech about how he just quit playing. He quit the team, and then he had more responsibility. And then he could do whatever he wanted and had more freedom to be who he wanted to be. Anyway, I thought he was an important character, and he wasn't there long. And I thought that the movie really was not very judgmental about anybody.
No.
I think they were like, everybody's fine. Even the ones that are really getting bullied, and he's just letting them get bullied, but they'll figure it out, and they all do.
They do.
So the really uptight pitcher, who's like, he doesn't get along with anybody, and he's sort of arrogant. Well, McReynolds hits a home run off him, and then the pitcher has to go back afterward after he throws a fit on the mound, and has to go and say, nice hit. And the guy's like, yeah, all right. And then he pats his ass with the glove.
He did.
And then the pitcher, awkwardly pats his ass back. And then McReynolds kind of glances over his shoulder and kind of smiles
he's like,
guy,
all right.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was nice.
So I want to talk about how, you've identified something that I identified. I'm like, well, there's no plot, right? Like there's no,
there's a plot.
Well, there is. I mean,
and actually, I'm glad you mentioned it because I didn't. Okay,
there's no MacGuffin, as they say in the film biz, right? There's nothing to move the plot along. It's just them wanting to go out and party and get drunk and whatever.
They're looking for girls.
They are,
and he gets a girl.
But this is an older story than that, right?
Yeah,
it's my personal favorite ever. Is this like a big reveal for me? I'm going to say what my favorite novel of all time is, and it took me a while to warm up to it.
All right,
do you know what it is?
No. Sun Also Rises.
It is. The Sun Also Rises.
How did I guess that? Because you like going to... You didn't tell me, I don't think.
We went to San Sebastian last summer.
Yeah. You must have told me.
I probably told you.
You like the scene where all the men are comparing how long their fish are?
I love that.
Like, oh, your fish are longer than mine. He's like,
mine's fatter.
Yeah.
It's still funny. That it's in the same vein as something like that. So it felt a little more literary, I think.
Yeah.
Like where there doesn't have to be, okay, we gotta beat the bad guys and blow up the
Oh no, they're just wandering around partying.
It took me a really long time to get that about Sun Also Rises, which I will not cover here.
Yeah.
But it has warmed me up for a story like this where it was like their goal was to get girls. They got girls.
They also got shut out by girls.
They did.
Day 2 was not good.
Day 2 was really bad.
And but then day 3 they got their mojo again.
But is that because of Jake, the way that he introduced himself to the theater girl? That it's like a real connection.
But so we start with Jake. He's a brand new kid. He's going to be challenged because he's new to the club. He's a freshman. And they go out driving, and then they pull up to try to talk to girls.
In that Olds 442.
Yeah, and then they do a great job of the first girls they talk to are totally dazzled because they're on the baseball team. They're like, hey, girls, you want to come to our party tomorrow night? And then they go to the theater girls and they strike out. And then they immediately go, fucking dykes, which I
Right.
love. And then...
Totally something we would have said.
But then,
not that I would have ever said that.
But then Finn tries his best, and he actually has a good rap, but they don't go. And she goes, no, I like the quiet guy in the back, in the middle, and it's Jake.
Yep.
And then they drive away, and they're like, yeah, that's right, they're lesbians. And he's like, she liked me. And
She
they're
liked
like,
me.
They're like, nah, man. You know what she said? She said the guy in the middle looks like a cock gobbler. And then they wouldn't give it to him.
Nope.
But they knew.
They knew.
At that point
Yeah.
that he was capable. And so it's a
great.
movie. This is what I love about it. One of the things I love about it. It's the oldest kind of like cheesiest plot. Bunch of horny young guys want to get laid. And they look at girls and they're all kind of objectifying them. But in the end, it isn't sex.
No.
It's super romantic.
Yeah.
And it's a really sweet romance. And he wakes up in the morning with her. Choo-choo. Wakes up in the morning, and all his clothes are on. I think it's a very studied...
Yep.
They didn't
Yep.
have sex.
Yep.
They just kind of cuddled.
Yep.
And they were kind of... and then his buddies are waiting for him. They're like, you didn't come home last night. And they're like... And they watch him, like, kiss the girl goodbye before going to class. And they're
Yep.
like, oh, it's so cute. And they're making fun of him. But they're really happy.
Yeah.
And I think what it said to me is, yeah, guys are all horny and talk like that.
They've got a lot of talk. Yes.
But deep down inside,
Yeah.
they want to fall in love.
Yeah.
And they are happy when they see their buddy fall in love. And it's really, really,
really sweet. It was really
and,
sweet.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
And I think it was well done.
I thought the way they were ribbing him at the end was just right on the money. I forget what exactly they said, but they were like imitating him saying goodbye to his girlfriend. It was Finn, and I forget who else.
But was it the girlfriend at the time, or was it like, this was like the cuddle, the post-cuddle.
This is just outside his classroom.
Okay, all right.
And they kissed goodbye, and then she walked away, and then he's watching her walk away, and then she turns around, and he gives this little wave. And then he turns back around, and his friends have been watching the whole thing. And they're like,
Yeah.
no!
Right. Right.
It's, anyway, it's a big-hearted movie in the end, even though
it was
it's a
really-
bunch of partying dudes that are jocks.
Yeah.
And it was kind of pro-jock.
It was, but
Because the art girl
they
is-
made it into like they portrayed them as people.
They're definitely people, and some of them were dumb. But some
Yeah.
of them were very smart.
Yeah.
And he just said, Jake said, she goes, well, aren't athletes, and basically she means dumb. And he goes, my experience has been the same proportion of smart and dumb is in athletes as anywhere else. I feel like that's right from like a sociology study or something.
It was.
You know?
He's like it's just like any other population, basically.
Yeah.
Right. I loved it. The sort of response, and that Jake wasn't dumb, right? Yeah. All right. So I mentioned. Do you have anything? Do you have anything else? Because I have my closing thoughts.
Close it.
And
Close the thoughts.
We're closing the beer down.
Yeah.
All right. So, have you ever read Shampoo Planet by Douglas Copeland?
I haven't. I read Generation X.
Okay. Both of those are. They sort of remind me of this.
Yeah.
In a way that
Slacker is a lot like Generation X. I mean, that movie. Anyway, go ahead.
No. Go. Explain.
No, I was just going to say that the book Generation X is obviously credited for coining the term Generation X. And Slacker
He nailed
is
it.
coined the term Slacker, which is what Generation X was called.
Yeah.
And those
Until we got to work and show everybody how it's fucking done.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm Gen X. Do not argue with me.
Yeah.
Even though 1980 is my birthday, I'm not a millennial.
You're pretty close.
Fucking dangerously close.
Yeah.
I can thank my
One
sister
more
for
week.
that. Yeah.
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 How did your sister...
Because they say that if you have an older sibling, that they will pull you into whatever they're in.
I thought that
Thank
she
you, Amy.
somehow
Yeah.
made her parents like have a baby a little quicker than they would have otherwise.
Thank God,
like,
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, where were we?
Wait, we didn't do the bell for Amy.
Amy. Yeah.
Amy, what's going on with the social media management
Yeah,
stuff?
I gotta get her started.
Haven't been seeing all those posts that I've been hearing about.
Just needs access to my Facebook because I don't Facebook for any reason whatsoever.
So you just outed that your Facebook page is going to become some ghost thing for somebody else. A puppet.
Pretty much.
All right.
I'm good with that.
You better do this closing statement.
Oh, yeah.
We're starting to drift.
So that it reminded me of like the Gen X Shampoo Planet, except that nobody's done one of these for us yet, one of these movies for us, but that there's been the books, there's been sort of that in that vein of nothing really changed, nothing happened, the world didn't, get altered, but it was, a week in the life of, and the connection is, do you remember, moving into college and what was that like? Like, how did that first week look? And do you still know some of those people? I don't. Maybe one, but you felt like you're going to be friends with them forever. Some of the guys like Willowsby dropping out because he wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. I thought it really hit home.
Me too. Yeah. And you made me think of some people I used to know when I first started college, too. Some of whom I still know, some not.
What was your move-in like?
I didn't really move in. Let's save that for another time.
All right.
And my experience wasn't like this, but this made me want to have that. Like
you started later, right?
I started a little later. I was old enough to fake it. I was probably 21 when I started college. So,
do you know what the dirty little secret is? Is that nobody in your freshman classes had any idea that you were like not 18.
Oh, I know. It gave me an advantage for sure. I was like I worked construction after high school for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And so when I went to college, it was a lot easier.
Thank you.
We were getting these flyers.
Hey, so we're supposed to vote for the dive bar road trip. Oh, I've heard about this.
All right.
All right. Yeah, we got to vote for the Edge. Oh,
we got to vote for the Edge, even though we're at a different bar.
We are at a different bar, but they're not in the. They're not in the Elite Eight.
I am voting for the Edge for the dive bar road trip. All right.
Right there, people.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess that's a great.
It's a good way to
started off.
We're talking about a different bar.
Almost. Dropping your mic. You dropped your mic at the beginning, almost at the end. So that's a good bookend.
It is. All
right.
Go see the movie, people.
Go ahead and hit our. Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh. Sorry.
We like it.
All right.
Do we have?
Oh no, that's not the. Wait.
Oh no! Oh God, we're gonna have 5 things playing.
Are they all
there
playing?
There it is. No, it's good.
I want to turn this up a little. Okay, there it is. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Really, you should watch this one. This was pretty funny.
It was one of the wild, more lively.
There was more people outside smoking than has been.
Yeah, there's a pub crawl going on.
There goes the microphone.
You man, we need to like just tape it.
We're gonna bolt
tape
it
to your hand.
Because we always sit here. We should just ask them to put it right there.
That's right.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks a lot. We'll catch you all next time.